Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am the founder and owner of an entertainment website called leosigh.com. And this is the first in a series of podcasts I'm going to be recording over the next few months. Podcasts that will primarily be about the artists and the music Leo Sigh covers. This podcast, however, is a little bit different than what I plan on doing in later ones. And that's because it's a substitute for the first podcast I planned to release sometime later this month about a completely different subject. But as often happens with me when I plan to do one thing, one of the artists I write about on Leo Sigh does something so astonishing, I have to drop everything else and talk about it. That artist right now is Conchita, the Austrian singer that won the Eurovision Song Contest in 2014, and is the artist I follow more than anyone else. So what did Conchita do that made me drop everything else and concentrate solely on her? That would be a concert she performed a few months ago with both the prestigious BBC Concert Orchestra and her own band at the world-famous London Palladium. The concert aired on Friday night on BBC Radio 2, and frankly, even though I'm already completely used to how brilliant Conchita is when she performs, this concert left me speechless because what she managed to pull off with the BBC Concert Orchestra, 2 guest singers, Betsy and Misha Paris, and a set list of absolute power songs was mind-blowing, to a point that I've followed her for 4 years, and so I know how incredibly talented she is. But even for me, a writer who has written over 600 articles about Conchita, analysed her performances, and dissected how she feels as she performs, even for me, her performance at the London Palladium was like nothing I've heard. But before we get into all that, and I tell you what I think is so astounding about Conchita's performance, I also wanted to mention an interview she gave to the BBC the morning after the concert. And I'll put a link in the description below this video so you can head over there and read it. Because in it, she said a couple of things that didn't surprise me because I've followed her so closely, but they were things that left me feeling just a little bit sad for her. Or, I don't know, maybe not even sad, just frustrated that after 4 years of doing some of the most amazing things I've ever seen any artist do, Conchita, aka Tom, still struggles on a daily basis with never being completely happy with what she does because she never feels it's quite good enough. And the most important thing about this, she always feels she has something to prove. Because as she told the BBC, as she talked about her concert the morning after it was all over, a performance, by the way, that apparently she was very happy with, but this is what she said, and I'll read it to you. Everything went so well, all over. There was no huge fail. I'm still so excited and buzzing about it. That's a really new feeling to me because normally when I walk off stage, I'm never pleased with myself. I mean, I would really rip myself apart and destroy the whole vibe. And so the interviewer asks her, well, how come? Conchita replies, I feel I need to prove myself each and every time because I'm a drag act. It's easy to say this is just a joke, you know, the bearded lady, and I feel the need to smash it with every performance just because I want to be clear. This is not a joke. She then goes on to admit the pressure to prove herself could be just in her head, but she still continues to feel that pressure anyway. So there's 2 things from this interview that I thought were interesting. The first is this idea that Conchita is a drag queen. And apparently that is still in her head. And so she thinks, because of that, people don't take her seriously. Now, for me, and I think just about anyone that's familiar with Conchita and her work nowadays, we don't really see the drag queen aspect of her persona anymore. I mean, at Eurovision, sure, she was a drag queen. She was beautiful. She was glamorous. She was a boy in a dress. But now, she's not. Instead, she has brilliantly transformed herself from what was quintessentially a drag queen to a persona that is now an amazing mix of Conchita and Tom. a mix she herself seems to feel completely comfortable with in both the way Conchita acts and the way she now dresses and looks. And it's a mix which, to me, it's a winning formula because she has enough of the drag queen that she can still walk around the streets in Vienna when the wig is no longer on and have most people not recognize her. But she is also enough of Tom that that person up on stage nowadays is not really a drag queen in any respect of the words. She's absolutely real, and she is an artist, someone who's fleshed out and solid and is as world-class of an artist as someone like Lady Gaga, because she, well, Tom, the man who created her and now sits inside her looking out every time she's on stage or in persona, he has the exact talent that Gaga does. The ability to create personas that seem absolutely real and then keep building on those personas so they constantly change. It's genius, absolute genius. Because look at Conchita, either in her old form or as she is now. Now, I absolutely know that behind the wig, the makeup, the clothes, there's Tom, a 29-year-old Austrian man that I have met and had a conversation with. But when it comes to Conchita, she will always be female to me, and that is never going to change. And to be someone who can actually pull that off, to be a woman that is so real to someone who knows you are not, I don't even know how to express how brilliant that is. And so then we get to Conchita's need to prove herself, and hey, I get it. I mean, if you'd gone through as much bullying as she has in her life, both when she was a child and in the build-up to Eurovision and then even afterwards, you too would feel the need to prove yourself, to show people that you're not a joke, you're a serious artist, and that you want to be taken seriously. And so that's where she is now, still worried that people look at her like she's a joke or that she's not as talented as she thinks she is, even though she has given so many incredible performances at events all over the world, hardly any other artist would be invited to, and yet she is invited over and over again. I mean, if that was you, wouldn't you start thinking, well, I must be pretty good, or I wouldn't be being asked to do all this amazing stuff? And so to me, it's really frustrating Conchita still has this worry about not quite being good enough, because I wish I had a magic spell to allow her to step outside of herself and to see herself how I see her or how other people see her. But at the same time, in some respects, that she does feel the need to prove herself is probably why she is as phenomenal as she is. So, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing too. So let's now get to Conchita's BBC concert, because there is no other way to describe it except to say it was absolutely world class. And with a Conchita that not only managed to sing a huge number of songs over an almost 2-hour period, but songs that are massive power songs, songs that for a singer can zap them of energy after singing just a few of them. Because a true artist, and Conchita is definitely that, really does give their all in these type of songs. And Conchita sang what seemed like a whole music library of them. One of the biggest surprises to me, though, was Conchita's singing of the classic song, The Sound of Music. Well, classic to anyone that's not Austrian, because most of them have never heard of it. When she started singing this song, she scared the living daylights out of me, because she hit that first note with an operatic falsetto that is not really how The Sound of Music normally sounds. But because she technically doesn't have the soprano voice to sing it, as Julie Andrews sings it, the less musical, more opera feel came in instead. And as she sang the first few lyrics, my first thought was, this could go so horribly wrong for her, because one false note with The Sound of Music sung like that, and it would have been a disaster, and a laughable disaster at that. But in true Conchita style, while I sat stunned and desperately hoping she wasn't going to hit a wrong note, she sang that song just as gorgeously as Julie Andrews, the person the sound of music will always belong to, just with a falsetto. And think about that. She pulled off the sound of music in an operatic falsetto, authentically sounding more like a woman than a man. I mean, can you imagine the talent that takes? As for the rest of Conchita's BBC concert, while every single song was brilliant, a brilliant choice, brilliantly sung, beautifully arranged, these were the ones that really stood out for me. The R&B ballad, The Colors of the Wind, because that song is one of those that just grabs you. And Conchita's voice, as she played with that and let her voice soar and fall with this beautiful richness, that just made me cry. Her version of Brenda Russell's Get Here. Yeah, I'm a writer, and I don't even dare to try to describe how soul-grabbing this one was. I'll just say, listen to it, and listen to it, and listen to it, because you only hear that kind of emotion in a song from one of the greats. Her duet of Big Spender with guest singer Misha Paris, after which she joked she did everything she could to just keep up. No, she didn't just keep up. She shouldered her half of the song like the girl with balls of steel that she is, and equaled the phenomenal Misha Paris in every respect. As for Conchita's performance of Purple Rain, it's pretty much a given nowadays that it is going to be superb, as she has sung it on a number of occasions, never fails to hit that massive note, and manages to do justice to a hell of a difficult song without it even seeming like it's any effort at all. Of course, Over the Rainbow is Julie Garland's signature song, and the one Garland herself sang on that same London Palladium stage in an iconic performance. And although Conchita joked about not knowing the history of the song when she agreed to sing it, and so being nervous about the outcome, she sang Over the Rainbow in, to me, as powerful a way as Garland. Simply because if you listen to Judy Garland, her voice is quite hard and quite abrasive. Conchita's, on the other hand, is softer, more wistful, and really portrays the idea of that song, the idea that there must be a place somewhere that is better than the one you are in now, if you could only find it. And yes, of course, she hits every note perfectly, just like Garland. She also sang an updated version of Queen's The Show Must Go On, and that's a song Tom himself sang years ago during one of his Starmania performances. And if you get a chance, listen to Tom's version on YouTube. Because while he blew me away the first time I heard it, when you compare that to what Conchita did with the BBC Orchestra on Friday night, the difference is a boy who desperately wanted to be a superstar and certainly had the talent to get there, and a now adult artist who gave a performance of that song that would have had Queen's Freddie Mercury standing up, screaming his approval right along with the rest of us. Conchita also sang some of her own songs, Heroes, That's What I Am, You Are Unstoppable, Rise Like a Phoenix, and Firestorm. They all came with gorgeous orchestral arrangements that added an even richer feel to these already beautiful songs. And she nailed every one of them, even Firestorm, a song, honestly, I like the least of any she has ever done, and one she has struggled with live in the past. Friday night's performance, on the other hand, is the best I have heard her give. Then, of course, there was Barbra Streisand's The Way We Were, a song that sounds deceptively simple, but is so ridiculously difficult to sing. More people butcher that than not. And of course, Conchita herself realized once she had agreed to sing it that this was going to be a bit of a challenge, because Streisand sings it like it's just a day in the park, and not many others can. And so how did Conchita do? And again, remember, she's a boy, not a girl, because I keep having to remind myself of that simple fact when she is singing these power ballads and sounding as good as the female superstar that first recorded it. So Conchita sang The Way We Were, technically superb and hitting all the high notes, just like Streisand. But what I loved about her version of Streisand's classic song is She was also able to portray the soaring elegance of this song and its emotion of looking back to what once was there and will never be again. And this is why I have been telling everyone I talk to since I heard Conchita's BBC concert on Friday night, this 29-year-old Austrian singer is not only world class now, but she is going to be one of the greats. Because it's not just that her technique is so good and that it keeps developing, or that she has what seems to be an ever expanding range. It's that that girl loves drama so much. She really makes these songs live. And that is something only a great artist can do. Then, when you add in Conchita's band, which is one of the best bands she has ever performed with, the phenomenal BBC Orchestra, and the funny stories she tells in between many songs, and this concert was one of those you only normally dream about. Conchita's performance with the BBC Concert Orchestra and her band at the London Palladium is available to listen to for another 30 days or so on the BBC's website. I'll add the link to it in the description below the video so you can hear it. And if you love how she sounded here, Conchita will be doing something similar with the Vienna Symphony Orchestra in Vienna on October 20th. That concert is also going to be in conjunction with a CD release from the orchestra and the Austrian diva. And honestly, how the hell can you call her anything else but diva after you've just heard that BBC performance? You can find out more about that concert and get the link to where you can buy tickets on Conchita's website, link to that below too. As for me, I will be publishing the second in this series of podcasts sometime in June, and would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can listen to it. And please give this podcast a thumbs up if you like it. The second one, of course, will not be about Conchita. Well, unless she parts the Red Sea and then walks in between it, in which case I'll be right there walking with her and talking about it. But it will be about other Austrian artists I think are brilliant and would love it if you would listen to them too. So thanks so much for listening, and feel free to leave any comments you have below. Bye for now.